But most important things that we learn are out of the classroom. And the most important things that we learn are not actually structured by adults. And I'm just grateful to the staff who worked in those circumstances. I'm really grateful to the students and their parents who let them come here. And together we built what is the real Robert Bosch College.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Right, hello and welcome everyone. Today we have a very special guest with us today. Laurence Nodder, previous rector and founding father of RBC, and with extensive experience within the school in Waterford as well. How are you doing today?
I'm doing very well, thanks Hamza and Sitara, and thank you for your invitation to come and be here today. I love returning to RBC.
It feels similar, familiar as you mentioned.
Yeah. When I first came into this building, it was a wreck. And so I've seen, even in terms of this building, I've seen it all being cleaned out and taken out and walls demolished and walls rebuilt, and until we, in a 2.5-year process, we managed to get it to be something that could be a school. Yeah.
We're also very happy to see you here, here and there.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
So I think reflecting on your whole entire journey at RBC, what are some of the highlights, would you say, or something that you're very proud of within the founding of the school itself throughout the years?
There are a couple of things. The first one is that we actually did manage to start, and that is always a trip. To begin with, the UWC International, in its strategic plan in the late 2000s, so 2009, 2010, had decided that there shouldn't be another UWC in Europe because we already had a cluster of schools within Europe: Atlanta College, Mostar, Red Cross Nordic, Maastricht, and the thinking was that we need, as UWC, to concentrate on other parts of the world. And then the opportunity came through the Robert Bosch Stiftung, the Robert Bosch Foundation, wishing to celebrate a major anniversary in its existence and also the birthday of the founder, Robert Bosch, an anniversary project. And it happened that the grandson of Christoph Bosch, of Robert Bosch, was Christoph Bosch. His daughter had gone to Red Cross Nordic, and we suddenly had an idea: should we not make the anniversary project of the foundation a United World College in Germany? Then we had to get into the conversation pretty hard. How can you start something that was against the strategic plan of an organization? But over a period of time, over a fairly quick period of time, 2 years, we managed to get permission for this to open as a United World College. The other side of the challenge came in getting the German authorities to understand that a school like this would be an advantage to Germany. And even though we don't quite fit the paradigm of what a school might look like in Germany, that this was something that should happen and could be funded on discretionary basis by Rand Baden-Württemberg. And a very key person who was involved in that process and who is still involved in the school through governance is Helmut Rau, who was to begin with, he was the education minister in Baden-Württemberg, and then he became the minister under the Staatsminister, the minister under the president of Baden-Württemberg. And he got enthused by the idea of this project and then came in behind it. And then we had the practical stuff to do. We had buildings to renovate, your student houses to build, all on a very important historic site in Freiburg. It is said that this is the second most important historic site in Freiburg after the Münster. And the archaeological ruins here, and this building is a historic monument, and as you might have seen on many of the trees, they also have historic Naturdenkmal, geschützt, they natural historic monuments, and somehow to build a workable school around that, well, that became a challenge, and to do it quickly became a very big challenge. We were lucky from the UWC point of view. That was the Bosch Bauabteilung, the building division of Bosch, who took on the responsibility for managing this as a building project. And they brought their very considerable expertise to this. And of course, the Bosch Foundation and the Bosch company funded all the work that needed to be done. We weren't ready in August 2014. You might have seen the photographs. We weren't ready in a physical way, but we were ready in a spiritual way. If you want to think of it like that, we were ready for students to come, and we could do a UWC education around the chaos that was here. And I'm just grateful to the staff who worked in those circumstances. I'm really grateful to the students and their parents who let them come here, and together we built what is the real Robert Bosch College. The real Robert Bosch College isn't these buildings. I mean, the real Bosch College is that living community, the living educational community committed to the UWC mission that we have built generation upon generation here, and that's what I'm really, really proud of. That we've been able to keep that spirit, that community spirit alive. Through now 10 and 2/3 years. Yeah.
Talking about community, I mean, we as RBC students and RBC community are very famous for the strong community, is being there for each other. What are some special moments for you with students and staff that you cherish?
Yeah, the list could be long, and some on the structural sides, those weekly assemblies, I used to love these assemblies. I used to really love being in the Mensa. I mean, weekday Mensa was, for lunch, was a little bit, sometimes a bit noisier, and all the rest. But you know that there's an old age home right next door to us, Johannesheim, and I kept on thinking, I'm in my now 60s, which Mensa would I prefer to be eating in? With younger people or with people in their 70s and 80s? So I knew which Mensa I even on the days that the food wasn't the most wonderful, the few days that the food wasn't the most wonderful. So thinking about community, I come from a culture where eating together is one of the ways in which you build community. Last year, I was able to come up again to the end of year camp and join in those types of activities and the fireside chats, the student cafes, something shoots and something. I was in tears, not out of frustration, but just marveling at the talent and the generosity and the warmth that was within this community of people that are gathered, some to perform and all to support. These are all some of the really special moments. A fabulous community, which doesn't mean it's a perfect community, but because part of my thinking allows it to be an imperfect community. And you've seen how sometimes we roughed up really hard against each other, and how we can get through that and still build common ground together again, even in our disappointment. To me, that's the true mark of of a community and what this community represents in my fond thinking and remembering of it. Yeah.
I think speaking of warmth and community, I think everyone would agree that it is very emotional, kind of, for example, leaving the school, even for project week or for winter break, because you build all this wonderful community here with the people.
Yes.
So the special concert and ceremony in Munster,
Yes.
that was a very specific moment, I'll bet, in your mind. How was that experience?
Well, first of all, I was asked, the school wants to do something special for your retirement, and what special? What would that look like? And I trained. I did music as one of my subjects at school. I continued to train privately, not as part of my degree, but privately at university. I trained to be a church organist. I worked on the cathedral organ in Cape Town, and over here, from Easter to Christmas, every Saturday morning there's a concert in the Munster, and if I was in Freiburg, that is how I would transition from being in the school mode to that 25, 30 minutes into my private mode. And then over summer, there are also more substantial concerts at the evenings, on Tuesday evenings. And so everybody here on the staff, they sort of tease me about my particular enjoyment in going and advocacy for people joining me to go to these concerts. And most of the time, it's a new member of staff would, oh yeah, we'll come, and let come once. Like, we thought that could be a really special thing, to have a concert, an organ concert, where I could have a role in choosing the music. Yeah, and that's and that was indeed a very, very special moment. But also, so at a strange level, when I was there, I suddenly felt it was like being at my own funeral, because it's in a religious space, and people are saying very generous things, and appreciation is not the same as appraisal. If people had to appraise my career, they might have been they're things that I did well, but they're also things that didn't work out so perfectly. And this sort of concentrated on the warm, on the glowing side. One of the things that I had thought about that Munster concert is also Robert Bosch College coming. To me, it marked the beginning of the 10th anniversary of the school. And if I had to say one of the things that I'm most satisfied about Robert Bosch College, or pleased about, in the sense of Freiburg, is that the college really does seem to have become a Freiburg institution. It doesn't feel within the city as though this is just a newcomer and something that's separate from the city and something that probably won't endure. There's a real sense in which the city has taken on through that. Of course, probably 2/3 of people in Freiburg don't even know that the college exists. But in terms of the city authorities and the civic organizations, there's a very, very high level of recognition of the college and the sense that we are here as part of Freiburg and and we are staying in Freiburg. We are a Freiburg institution, and to then start the anniversary celebration in Freiburg's most important civic center, because was a mark of recognition also for the college that we are a Freiburg institution. I don't know whether people in the school know, the cathedral isn't, or the Münster is not owned by the Roman Catholic Church. Actually, it is owned by the city. It's owned by the citizens of the city, Freiburg. It is a free city, and it is loaned to the Catholic Church. But if the Catholic Church puts too many feet wrong, it could be taken away because it is owned and maintained by the citizens. And it is one of the few places in the world where the Pope isn't even allowed to appoint the bishop by himself. It has to be in agreement with the mayor of Freiburg. And it's part of the old history of the city as part of their permission to continue to use this building. And so it is not simply a religious, it doesn't just simply represent a religious place, it represents Freiburg's most important civic place. That's a distraction from the question, what did this farewell day mean? And yeah, to be recognized in that place was something very, very special for me and for Debbie and for our family. Yeah, after many, many years of it was 25 years, broadly speaking, as a head within UWC, but if I then another 8 years of headship and another in schools in Southern Africa, and having worked for 40 years in schools. So yeah, it was very special. Yeah.
Yeah, talking about all these experiences that you've already had before even coming to RBC or before even starting RBC, how did that shape your approach to education at RBC?
Yeah. My ideas developed at RBC, that's for sure. And I think it would be very boring if one's ideas don't develop any over time, wherever one is. So I think some of the students at Waterford, for instance, would be quite surprised by some of the approaches we grew into at RBC. So there is a sense of movement. A common thread throughout the 40+ years has been that I have found it important to work with people from a variety of backgrounds and people, including people who really have faced disadvantage in life, structural disadvantage in life. In Southern Africa, that meant that I always worked with Black people in Southern Africa. After university, I chose to avoid conscription into the apartheid army, and then I crossed the border on the day of my conscription to Lesotho, a neighboring country actually completely surrounded by South Africa. And I worked at and became principal of a little school where roughly half the students were Basotho and half of the students were refugees out of South Africa. People, either educational refugees or political refugees or both. And that really set the framework. And yes, there were a few, we had some UN children at the school and we had a couple of children from other NGOs whose parents were working in NGOs nearby. But essentially, it was a school for young people who were really determined to receive a quality education, or good here. And quality isn't the quality of the buildings, it's the integrity of the teaching and what is being taught. It's not education that is based on propaganda. And particular sectarian or national interest. So yeah. And then with a gap of a year from a motorbike accident, which is another long story, but I won't go into that, I was able to disappear in a rural area in South Africa, in a black rural slum, and worked for 7 years without the army and the authorities realizing that I was back in the country. But again, that was working with young black people who, under apartheid, were facing really deep discrimination and had a structurally inferior educational system and curricula. It was a curriculum designed to disempower rather than a curriculum designed to empower. And yeah, I was the deputy there as we built a school from the first students who arrived. We lived in tin shacks, corrugated iron, not together structures. For some of the students, an old stone building for some students. I lived in a little tent. We had tents as classrooms, and so we built a school over 7 years for 400 students, 400 boarding students there. And once Nelson Mandela was released from prison in 1990, and once the African National Congress and other political parties were unbanned, and once things were put in motion towards a democratic dispensation, I was able to come out of the incognito, so to speak. And then I ran a school for township, essentially township students coming off the townships, particularly in KwaZulu-Natal, which was in the status and war. And it was, so that's where things started. And Waterford, I think I learned at Waterford, where I was for almost 13 years as the principal, that our apartheid challenge, that the destruction of that apartheid had on the lives and the psyches of people, this was not alone. It was a particular manifestation in Southern Africa of inhumanity from privileged people to less privileged people, but this was not a singular event in the world. And that's where my opening up in terms of who we could bring together and who we should have to get learning together. And I don't simply learning in the classroom, although learning is, we are schools, we do some learning in the classroom as well. And where the teachers are good, they can, and where the subjects allowed, they can draw on these diverse experiences within a classroom. But it's fundamentally learning to live together, and learning to build this common ground. And that's, my concept of that developed, and it has developed very much more, even here at Robert Bosch College. I think my transition at Robert Bosch College was at Robert Bosch College, over the last 12 years, I really have come to understand that, yes, we learned in the classroom, and it is important what we learn in the classroom, and we would not have permission to operate a school without learning in a classroom. And learning in a classroom is what gives you the foundations, the academic foundations, to take your studies further. So all those things are important, and I would not stop those things. I'm a school person. But most important things that we learn are out of the classroom. And the most important things that we learn are not actually structured by adults. We can put a very loose framework around things. And so we can design agrees that are 4 people in a room, and we do have a role in putting different people into those rooms, and there's some deliberate decisions around that. But fundamentally, yeah, you need to be on your agendas and on your journeys, and the job of the adults is to get out of the way for that to happen. And so I increasingly have become an advocate for giving space and freedom for students to be on their own agendas, and to learn to shape their own learning from each other. Without the school's agenda should be that there will be learning, not exactly what that learning might look like and how it should be micromanaged. And so I think that is the development that really happened over my last 12 years in Freiburg. And so that is why we did not structure adults sitting in your houses in the evenings, supervising your homework, supervising you. I don't see the adults' role here as well of supervision. It's why, even with a lot of anxiety from our board, we were determined to have student budgets. It is why we have students. We don't have an adult with every student group on Wednesday mornings when you're hiring community service. It's part of a philosophy that actually you can be responsible, and you will be responsible, and you'll be more responsible if we just hold ourselves back a little bit as the adults. And yes, we have to be ready to come in and give support when asked for support, and when things are patently going wrong. But it's not our job to be too anxious and to get in too early, because then we make less opportunity for learning. If I had anything to say about the developments within UWC, and this is what I feel, in my view, is where UWC is on tricky ground, and it's that UWC wants to control more and more the learning that happens with the students. And I think that is a counterproductive. In the end, it's a counterproductive exercise. It doesn't leave you empowered. Leaves you with skills, but not the feeling of empowerment to actually take things forward necessarily by yourselves.
And I think that level of philosophy that offers students so much freedom to kind of explore and go lead their own learning, and that can be seen largely as revolutionary, especially in certain areas of the world.
Yeah.
How would you see that evolving? How education changes throughout the world, and maybe the UWC's style of education, in a sense, spreads towards more and more schools around the world?
Yeah, I think in that regard we do have a lighthouse role to play. I'm going to go back a little bit. When Waterford was founded in 1963, as the first, in those days the language was multiracial, and then it became non-racial, and now it would be anti-racist. But as the first school in Southern Africa where people from different ethnicities, I suppose, or different races, and different religions could come together and learn. That was, Waterford It was revolutionary at the time, but Waterford didn't think all the schools in Southern Africa would immediately fall in line, but it wanted to be an example in society that you can take this approach and the world doesn't fall apart. And in fact, the students who might go to that school end up being even more successful in terms of, and more confident than people who had come out of more less diverse schools, more singular schools. So a school like Waterford became a question mark. And then 28 years later, when apartheid was beginning to unravel, people could say, oh, actually, maybe it isn't such a danger if we bring people from different backgrounds, and different ethnicities, and to bring them together. Robert Bosch says that the role of a school should not simply be measured by the teaching and the quality of the teaching. Robert Bosch says that the role of a school shouldn't even, the quality of the school should not even be measured in the end by the quality or the success of the academic learning. And I say again, the academic learning is important, but it is not the fundamentally most important. There can't be a school without that academic learning. You won't have your careers, most likely, without academic learning. Vital. But there's lots of people who support tyrants in the world who've had fabulous academic learning. Even in Freiburg, one of the world's most famous philosophers, Heidegger, who was the rector of University of Freiburg, he supported the Nazis. What went wrong? What went wrong? And I'm saying that we have to be that example to say that schools need to take their role beyond academic and to build community and to build society and to have people's own real authentic experiences that actually we learn better when we are surrounded by people who have different perspectives and different histories and different backgrounds. So I think that's our role, and our role as UWC Bosch College in this society and even within UWC. We hold on to what we believe is the most important and not follow the trend of it's what the adults do. That is the mark of the school.
Yeah. In 1.5 weeks, there are mocks. Coming first years are stressed with their IA staff members, health costs to correct. If you could leave one message for big seals and new faculty, cool, we'll continue here. Are gonna be stressed in the next few weeks. What would it be?
Don't be scared by stress. You don't debate it, but it happens. It happens. And you're going to probably be more stressed in circumstances, even after your IAs or after your mock exams. There are going to be circumstances in life where you feel under real pressure and you get to, So don't be too frightened about that stress. Try and use productively. Try and use the mock exams productively. Try and use your final exams productively. You'll come out on the other side. I hope. And so far, that's been the case.
I think going back to your journey in RBC, I think now that you're kind of stepping away from that world, what is next for you and Debbie?
Yeah, we don't really know yet. I thought I might still have a professional a role to play that drew on my specific experience as a UWC head, and being involved in UWC governance, and so far that is not so obvious. And I don't know why I wanted that to be. Was it because I couldn't imagine standing down? Was it me holding on too tightly to what had sort of dominated my life for the previous 42 years? So I'm not quite sure what my motivation was for really continuing to seek some sort of, even if it was voluntary, professional engagement. So we aren't quite sure whether there's something new that we're going to evolve into, or whether maybe calls are going to come for me to stay involved a little bit in UWC in one way or another. So we don't know. What we do know is that well, let me speak for myself. Debbie always tells me, let to speak for her. But, I miss this community break. I do. I don't miss the responsibility greatly. I used to wake up in the middle of the night and have almost, they weren't medically certified in panic attacks, but it was, I would find it really difficult to go to sleep again because I just be looping and looping and leaping over the inevitable challenges that people, individuals and groups of individuals were facing, and then structurally that we would sometimes face in this place. So I don't miss that at all. And that's a useful thing to realize, that I still wake up in the middle of the night, but I don't get into those loops anymore. Yes. So we wait and see. And what I think, if we're going to live in Germany, I need to really learn a lot more German. I need to become, I'm now functionally literate. So I can read and understand, and I can do shopping, and I can go to the doctor, and I can go to the bank, and I can, but I can't have anything of a, let alone a sophisticated conversation in Germany. And that's probably my next big work, if there is a big work left. Get this language under my belt, into my brain. Yes, yeah.
Then I think we're approaching the end of this podcast.
Yeah.
The last thing would be, if you had to describe your RBC journey with 3 words.
Yes.
Which words would it?
Yeah, so exciting would be one of them. Warm would be another one. Rewarding would be a third. And these are all genuine. And then a fourth I would add on, sometimes terrifying. And it's not true. It's funny, I used to get terrified during project weeks, because things can go wrong. Yeah. And trivial things do go wrong a lot. And I always think that that's how you can't design things to go wrong, but you can hope that sufficient small details go wrong for people to really have to learn to think and act on it, as we would say, and to think on your feet. But in some Lasker, or not here, but in some Lasker, we, even though we didn't have you didn't have project weeks, but some students got really badly hurt, and so I've seen what I've seen what can go wrong, and that used to fill my mind when students would go off. So there are moments that are really terrifying, and you just thankful in everything harmless works out. Yeah.
Right. Well, I think thank you very much. This has been a very wonderful conversation, and we're very glad to have you here. So thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Good fun. Yeah.
Thank you. So stay tuned for the upcoming episodes of our podcast, and thank you again to Laurence. I'd like to have you.
Thank you very much. You be well.